Now that you have most of your fish all painted, we have our little yellow fish, our stripey guy, our clownfish that's finished, and then our colorful fish down here. We need to work on doing some background areas. So what we're gonna do is different methods of taping areas or masking areas, I guess I should say. And there are several different ways that you can do that. One way that we have is good old-fashioned masking tape, and I'll show you how to do that on one of them. We also have rubber cement. And then we have what is called liquid friskit. And I'm gonna do the masking tape one first just because it's so easy. The area that I want to paint is gonna be like this bottom area, like on here where I have my rocks. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do on there yet, but I do know that I don't want any of that to get on my fish. And so one really easy way to go about that is just to mask off that area. And so I'm gonna say, let's see. I'll just do it right there. I'm gonna press down, and then I'm going to put another piece of tape over top of it. Now I want to overlap just a little. That way I know it's really covered, but I have to really make sure that that seam gets pressed down. And then I'm gonna do one more because I have that other part of the fish. So then, hopefully that was enough. This one I'm gonna overlap a little bit as well. And I'm not gonna worry too much about that little piece that comes out because I can probably take one of the bits that's gonna come off over here, actually. Do that right there. Okay, so now that I have that completely covered off, I also have the area around it covered off as well. But I'm gonna take it and use my X-Acto knife. I'm gonna make sure that it's really nice and secured. And I want to press through the tape, but not gouge a hole into the paper, which is kind of a process. So you just kind of have to start somewhere, and you wanna make sure that you're really getting that line right between the two shapes. So I'm gonna fast forward and get that done. That way you don't have to watch me in real time. Okay, so now we should be able to separate that piece and peel it back. The sooner you can peel this back, the better. That way it doesn't stick too well to your paper. And there's always places that I end up missing or that don't want to pull back right away. Okay, I can tell on some of the areas over here that I've lifted it up and I've separated it. We really want that to stay stuck down. So I'm gonna go around on my edges, make sure that it's pressed down really well. Go back in here, pick out any of the little pieces that didn't separate right away. There we go. Okay, so now he should be protected from when I watercolor paint around there. You have a slight possibility that some of the water is gonna leach in through some of your seams, or if it hasn't been pressed down very well, it could happen through there as well. But I mean, there's no perfect method, but this is the best. This is one of the 3 best ways that I've found to do it that we can do in the classroom. Okay, so the other 2 ways, you actually have to have a special applicator. And these rubber nibs, these are brushes just like your other brushes, but instead of having bristles, they have rubber nibs on the top. So I'm gonna go through and just I don't have to cover the whole area, but I'm gonna do just the border through here of this one and make sure that we get some of it blocked off so that we can protect it from the rest of that water that's gonna come through there. So this is the liquid friskit. You have to make sure that it is really well mixed up. If it isn't that like peachy color, you haven't done it quite right. So sometimes it separates. So I'm gonna dip just that rubber nib part into there and you'll see where it goes on. It's not super thick. I'm gonna put it onto there. The reason why we don't use this with anything with bristles is because this is basically liquid latex and it would seal all of the bristles together if we let it dry. Now, the good thing about this being mostly latex is that latex wants to stick to itself. So once I'm done with this brush, I can pretty easily just rub the latex off of the end of the nib. And I already have some of that wax resist over here, so I don't really need to cover that, and the latex doesn't really want to stick to the wax very well. So I'm going to cover this seam over here. And when this dries, it'll be a little bit more transparent. Not a lot. You should still kind of be able to tell where it is, but it'll look like a darker orangey kind of color. Kind of like how you see on the lid there. It's a little bit darker right there where it dried. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that that's enough for this seam through here, because remember, I'm painting the background over here. I'm not gonna worry about my little seaweed pieces because I'm still gonna paint my seaweed pieces over top. But when I'm done with this, I'm just gonna wipe off the extra. I wanna make sure that anytime I'm not using this, the lid is pretty firmly on there, because if it dries out, it doesn't work anymore. So I have the little bit of the latex left over on that nib. I'm just gonna rub it on a paper towel. Kind of wants to stick to itself there. Oh, by the way, this smells awful, awful, just very bad. Okay, so then that one's clean. Then our last one that we're gonna do, I'm gonna do him over here. I just have this teeny tiny little area, It's very similar to the liquid frisket. It's just a more like cost-effective option. It's just rubber cement. And I'm going to do basically the same thing that I did before. I'm gonna get most of the rubber cement off of the tip of that. Oop, got a little bit on the lid. And then I'm going to use this very same rubber nib, and I'm just gonna take from there and apply it over here. So same concept. Ooh, it's drippy. Same concept, but this one takes a little bit longer to dry. There, I'll put that back on there. And this has a smell to it, so you'll want to make sure that you are in a ventilated area. I have the fan going over here, so I'm good to go. Now, of the three, I would much rather use the frisket or the masking tape, but we do have a third option, so I figured I would at least show you what it is and show you how we would put it on if we were to use it. Please try not to get it on the board. I know mine's on the board. I spilled a little goober on the board over here. I don't know exactly how that's gonna work when it dries, but you know what? We'll figure out together. Okay, so I've really just gone around the edges where I know that I'm gonna need to paint in there. For that rubber cement, I need to let it dry. Like, it has to sit. And it will never get like dry, but it will get to a point where it is just tacky and it won't spread anymore. Same thing with this. You can already tell that that liquid frisket is starting to dry a little bit less peach color and a little bit more orange. And through here, you really can see that it's a lot more transparent. This takes the longest to dry. This takes a little time, but not a lot. And then this is already dry. So those are your 3 ways of masking. On the next video that I do, I'll show you how I do this and then how we do this background. And then I'll show you how we take off our masking.